Assalamu alaikum students. Today we will discuss the second part of the topic Muhammad Ayub Khan. Here we will discuss his important reforms. Ayub Khan got fame around the world just because of his policies and reforms, uh, and he got praise from politicians and economists around the world. In 1968, he celebrated this work by calling the period a decade of development. So, first of all, we will discuss his agricultural reforms. Ayub Khan's government passed a law saying no farm could be smaller than 12.5 acres or larger than 500 acres. 500 acres in case of irrigated land by canal water, or uh, uh, 1000 acres in case of unirrigated land. Uh, means unirrigated land means the land which was irrigated by rain water. During the time period of Ayub, three major dams were being constructed for the purpose of irrigation. Furthermore, farmers were given loans to build wells for the same irrigation purpose. Ayub Khan's reforms revitalized agriculture, and the crop yields were uh, at a peak at an all-time record. Ayub Khan called it green revolution. So much of there was another fact that much of the increased productivity of crops was just because of the commercial mechanized farming, and it was uh, a fact that uh, it could only be afforded by big landowners. Now we will discuss industrial reforms of Ayub Khan. Industrial development was carried out with the help of loans being taken from industrialized Western countries like United States of America, Germany, and the United Kingdom. In 1962, in Pakistan, an oil refinery was set up in Karachi. Further, Mineral Development Corporation was being set uh, for the exploration of mineral deposits. In 1964, an economic union was formed with Iran and Turkey, the RCD, the Regional Cooperation for Development, in which three countries agreed to develop strong ties in the fields of trade, commerce, and industry. An export bonus scheme was set up, offering incentives to industrialists who increased exports. As a result of the policies, economic policies, the growth rose rapidly, and the average annual rate by which the economy grew in 1960s was 7%, and it was three times more than that of India. This production did rise rapidly, and the Pakistani economy improved significantly. Uh, but there was uh, another setback, that the new wealth created did little to benefit the large number of people living in Pakistan who were below poverty line. In 1968, it was just considered and justified that just only 22 families controlled 66% of Pakistan's industrial assets. The same families also controlled 80% of Pakistan's banking and insurance companies. So, a small uh, group of wealthy Pakistanis had almost complete control of Pakistan's total wealth. So, and obviously, it didn't go unnoticed in East Pakistan that almost all these families were belonging to West Pakistan. So, even industry was improving rapidly, but Pakistan was increasingly dependent on foreign aid. Ayub Khan advisors drew up a new curricula for schools and suggested that new textbooks should be published. The government began an extensive literacy program, building new schools and colleges. There was also an effort to deal with shelterless people uh, in some major cities, especially Karachi. Refugees from the partition era had still not been able to find the permanent residence. So Ayub Khan appointed General Azam Khan the rehabilitation minister, and he settled 75,000 refugees in newly built dwellings near Karachi. Further, laws were passed that factory owners had to provide accommodation for their workers at a very cheap and reasonable rent. Ayub Khan's uh, government also tried to control population growth and set up the family planning program, what were funded by mostly American loans. The government used electronic and print media just like radio, cinema, newspapers, posters, and leaflets to persuade Pakistanis to limit the size of their families. In the field of health, many medical and nursing training schools were being set up to increase the number of medical staff like doctors and nurses in Pakistan. In 1959, the site for the new capital city, named as Islamabad, was chosen to replace Karachi. Construction was started in October 1961, uh, and on 26 October 1966, the first official building started functioning in Islamabad. In 1967, Islamabad was officially declared as the capital city of Pakistan, and the process of construction, the government buildings continued, and and it was completed by the mid of 1970s. Now we'll discuss the political unrest and the certain reasons for the downfall of Ayub Khan. In 1965, Pakistan went to war with India. The basic reason for the war was Kashmir. Uh, Ayub's government had provoked India into war, but neither side was able to win a decisive victory. Ayub told the people that Pakistan had won the war, but the peace treaty of Tashkent contained no reference to how the Kashmir issue would be dealt or settled down. So it was to regain that disputed Kashmir territory that Pakistan had started the war. Ayub sacked the foreign minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who he blamed for the failing in the war. So at this point, Bhutto became a focal point for opposition to Ayub. In 1968, many people were discontented with the government, and the, furthermore, it seemed to be undemocratic as there were numerous accusations of intimidation and vote rigging in the presidential elections. So, on one hand side, the economy was improving, but very few people were benefiting from this development. Agricultural product was rising, but so were food prices. In October 1968, there were student protests all over the West Pakistan, and on a visit to Peshawar, Ayub Khan was target of a failed assassination attempt. Ayub Khan carried out widespread arrest just to control the situation and just to restore law and order. He even arrested Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So there were more protests which spread to even East Pakistan. Ayub's uh, repressive policies united the opposition, various opposition parties. In January 1969, eight of them formed the Democratic Action Committee. They wanted proper elections. Their second demand was the lifting of emergency powers, and thirdly, autonomy for East Pakistan. So Ayub tried to to control the situation, and on 17th February 1969, Ayub withdrew the emergency powers and released many political prisoners. He began negotiating with the opposition, but it was now too late. Things were out of the control. Even he cherished basic um, democracy's scheme, which was initiated by Ayub Khan himself, but the basic Democrats resigned in large numbers. So opposition rapidly gained support, and by March, Ayub realized that he didn't have enough support to stay in power. So on 25th March 1969, he resigned and he handed over the rule to army again, and for the again the country went under another martial law.